It's Friday, December 13th, 2024, and Fridays are Ask or Tell Me Anything next on the AM Update. Well, thank you again for joining me for another week on the AM Update. I appreciate each and every one of you. If you think of it, wherever you're listening, if you like this podcast or even mildly enjoy or are mildly amused, which is basically my daughter Abby's attitude towards her pops. Mildly amused. Not impressed, but mildly amused. If that is your attitude towards AM Update, why don't you drop me a 5-star review at your podcast platform of choice. Coming up tomorrow, it's going to be another No Suck Saturday. Bella and I will have 5 stories we think objectively don't suck. We're also going to be playing a couple of Christmas games for our main segment. That's an episode that will be available for the broader public. So, don't have a few. I forgot to post the post on X soliciting questions until a little bit too late, and then I forgot. Compounding forgetfulness on my part. But it's probably better just with my voice being the way that it is. Probably better to keep this on the short end. So just a couple of thoughts before we get started here this morning. I really appreciated my pastor's sermon at church this past Sunday. Pastor Mike was preaching on the genealogy of Jesus in Matthew. And of course, it's a universal experience, I think, unless you were just a whiz kid, that growing up and you read those passages, it's like, why is this in the Bible? And thus begat thus, and thus begat thus, and blah. It's just mind-numbingly boring when you're younger. But my pastor, he's preached on the genealogy of Jesus before, and has really made me appreciate the richness of that genealogy for a few different reasons. One, the very fact that we can have ensconced in writing over thousands of years a genealogy that for lack of better evidence is pretty much unassailable. That's a miracle in and of itself. But then you go back and you go through what actually stories of some of the people involved in the genealogy of Jesus Christ. And it is incredible. It's miracle after miracle after miracle that the line even continued. because the genealogy of Jesus Christ is basically one big episode of the Jerry Springer Show. I don't want to be sacrilegious, but it's kind of true. There's incest. There's prostitutes. There's David, who is a man after God's own heart, but he screwed up a lot. It's just an amazing, amazing story. And the bottom line is, and the point of his sermon was, no matter what your family background, of course, everybody's getting together with family over the holidays, over Christmas. And no matter what your family dynamic is, no matter how much dysfunction is in your family past, and I'm really privileged to come from an amazing family. I have a really great mom and dad who did their absolute darndest and continue to do their absolute darndest for their family and for their children. But no matter what your background is, it doesn't have to be your future. The background, the genealogy of Jesus Christ, like I said, one massive, really, really messy episode of the Jerry Springer Show. But God redeemed that messiness. And through that mess, we have our Messiah, our Emmanuel, God with us. It's really, really rich stuff. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you, Pastor Mike, for that. And another thing, man, I don't know about you, and maybe I'm just really hypercritical, but I used to think Kansas drivers were the worst. Minnesota drivers are really good, but counterintuitively, Minnesota drivers, like the first snow, are really bad. When I lived up in the Twin Cities, every time on Snelling Avenue and Lexington, right where the radio station is where I worked, I would sit up in the station, or I'd sit down in the lower studios, and I would watch a wreck. And I'm serious, every single year I was there, a wreck on the first snow would always happen at that intersection. But then the rest of the year, Minnesota drivers, I think, are fairly good. So Kansas drivers, horrible. Minnesota drivers, pretty good except for the first snowfall of the year. I've always given Iowans the benefits of the doubt. Illinois, it's kind of a mixed bag. You either get really bad out of hell people or really slow people. There are some few good Illinois drivers. Nebraska drivers may be the worst. But I've always given my native Iowans a free pass, but that might change. That might actually change. Because, man, I drive to work every single morning. If it's not the busiest section of interstate in our state, it's the second busiest stretch of interstate. And every single morning, this week again, Thursday morning, it was moderately snowing, and people weaving in and out all over the place. Hey, the middle lane is for a constant speed, driving the speed limit. Left lane is for passing. Right lane is if you're getting off the interstate. I try to stay in the middle lane, and even though I have a fuzzbuster, I generally try to keep up with the flow of traffic. Okay, I'm not trying to go too fast, too slow, weaving in and out. And even this week, and this was after, on Monday morning, I saw the second worst accident I've ever seen. And it resulted in a fatality on the way into work. And it was a car. Looked like maybe a Ford. And you couldn't tell because it looked like somebody, like Hulk, had smashed it like a pop can. And man alive, I just... Folks, no matter how big of a car you have, no matter how good of tires you have... If you're traveling this holiday, Christmas season, just say prayers and then 10 and 2 and pay attention because I don't want to see that again. Anyway, 2 random thoughts off the top. Clinton Shaw asks, will there be AM updates while you are on break from my day job? No, there will not. And now, obviously, if there's something big, monumental that breaks, then you're not going to not see me here. I will obviously do an episode for that. Last year, I tried to do both, or kind of an augmented schedule where I was on for 3 days and off the last 2, or on for 2, off the last 3. And coming out of that Christmas break, of course, I was building my home studio then as well. So coming out of that break, I felt more tired than I did going in. I just need a good long break. So I will be releasing some episodes of No Suck Saturday if you're interested. Some of the stories I'm sure will be a little bit dated. But I will be releasing some previously unreleased episodes of No Suck Saturday that we did just for subscribers from months ago. I will be releasing a few of those, kind of like what I did while I was at home after Abby was born this year. Country Squire asks, please continue to pray for the people of West North Carolina as winter moves into devastated areas. Help if you are able. Yeah, obviously. And Country Squire ends with Samaritan's Purse. And that's a good organization. That is a good organization to donate to. But yeah, especially as we move towards Christmas and maybe the devastation sinks in once again for those individuals, really salt of the earth people, real America. Remember to say a prayer for those individuals. Bruce says, thanks for the heads up on the day job about the Big Ten Championship game tickets. Decided to take advantage of it and saw an entertaining game for under $30. Could have got in for $8. Most of those in our section were just fans there to enjoy the atmosphere. Good time. Yeah, that's one of the side effects of this brave new world of college football. Both Oregon and Penn State in the Big Ten Championship game, they knew they were going to the playoffs. Their fans knew they were going to the playoffs. There was really nothing on the line other than a Big Ten title, which that should mean something, but that's just reality. It doesn't. Now, it ended up being a really entertaining game. I'm glad you got to go, but the fans knew it, and so they didn't really show up a ton. I don't know about you. Maybe Bruce, you can tell me. I thought some of the camera shots they had, it looked like the entire upper bowl of Lucas Oil Stadium was at the very least sparsely populated. And so, yeah, the get-in price for tickets was like $12, and you said you could have gotten in for $8. That is a yo. And those championship games might be... I don't know how you fix it. Everything is about the playoff now. So I'm sure expanding the playoffs will help everything. Ryan, the Christo-fascist. So apparently I missed the Anon war from last week and this week. What's the story? Some Anon accounts, I think this is the way it goes. Some anonymous conservative accounts really don't like it when you point out that that they're spending more time, obviously, chucking peanuts from the cheap seats and trolling on Twitter than they are actually actually doing anything positive. I think that's kind of the gist. And, it would be one thing if people who point that out were just ignored, but they're not ignored. They get attacked. And so that's kind of the story there. All right, that'll do it for an abbreviated Ask or Tell Me Anything. No Suck Saturday, going to come up tomorrow. That'll be the final one of the year. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. We'll be back at it again on Monday for one of the last 3 episodes of AM Update. Have a great weekend.